Hello, everybody. Let's get into today's live stream. One moment. All right. Let's get right into it today. Clearly a lot of volatility entering into the markets, so we're going to touch up on that. Yucky duggy artichokes. How's everyone doing today? Hopefully being careful out there. So as it stands right now, I just want to call out a few things from a gamma perspective. We are underneath that gamma flip line. This is where selling begets selling, buying begets buying. You can see much more crazy moves in the market. And we're seeing a pretty significant move in sell side activity today so far. You can see right here, we do have a negative divergence, but we don't have any convergence on this move. Being as that is, we can always see this kind of stuff snap back, so be aware of that. Qs is not yet near the daily expected move, the lower daily expected move, but we talked about on that last market brief, and it was over a $5 expected move, and we are approaching into and around those levels, way outside of that weekly expected move there too as well in this current moment. As far as zero date levels go, 5550 was the one that was highlighted earlier in the trading session from the downside perspective. We have 5600 and 5625. We'll update that, see if anything's changed here. Yeah, 5550 would be the main put wall. 5550 is down here. So if selling begets selling and we make our way down there, just be prepared for something like that. We're going to hop into the larger mega cap stocks and just get an idea of those right now. So Amazon was one that I've been watching for a pullback into this area, and it's pulled back into this area, and now it's kind of exceeded down. So I'm kind of waiting to see if price can firm up in around here. I was watching over here, it gapped up, came right back down. We have this positive divergence here on the 15-minute time frame. I think that this could be a name that probably be fine just having a starting position if you buy dips, that is. We are seeing some significant sell side, but we've seen that here, we've seen that here, and really, I mean, this is just a higher low, right? Sell off, sell off, sell off. We're getting a pretty aggressive sell off here. So to see a bounce come back up into this range could make sense. Microsoft is also getting hit here too pretty hard, and that is floating roughly around the 50-day moving average as it stands right now. So Microsoft also put in that positive divergence. We're getting some continued sell side. So I'd be watching the lower daily expected move on the Qs and seeing if anything changes from that perspective, if we come down into and around that range. So those are those stocks. We'll take a look at a couple of more while we're getting this pretty insane sell action. But just don't step out in front of it, right? If you're not prepared. This is, you know, on last night's video, we kind of talked about this is where people blow up because they'll try to get aggressive and, you know, bad things can happen. Oh, get that coffee in me. Yum, yum, yum. When the dip keeps dipping. Yeah, I don't know if my, I'm still getting problems with my Twitch live stream. I don't know what's going on with it. Somebody said that there's no sound. I'm not too sure what's going on here with you, give me a second here. I want to check another platform. Looks like nothing's loading for me. Okay. Sorry. I'm just seeing if everything's working. It's kind of just something's weird with Twitch. I don't know what's going on with my Twitch stuff. Oh, it's somebody saying audio is good. Okay, maybe just a little bit of weird connection. Okay, yeah. So Microsoft's floating around the lows of the day. Let's take a look at Nvidia. This is down about 1%, but it's getting some pretty wicked sell side. You can see we're just fading every bounce back down to the lows. Google, same thing, near the lows of the trading session. No surprise here. This one's also pulling into its 50-day moving average as it stands right now, alongside some of the other big tech stocks. Seasonally speaking, this is where we get weakness or sideways neutrality, kind of like sideways stuff. And that's kind of what we've been doing. But you can see we got through that gamma flip line. We're getting that continued selling into selling. Pretty wicked stuff over here so far. And then the divergence is still growing here between the cumulative net premiums of puts and calls, but there's still no convergence. So yeah, if you're shorting down here in the hole, watch out, right? If you're trying, it's like kind of trying to pick up pennies in front of a steamroller, because if this thing wants to take a turn from where it's at, even if it comes down lower, we can still see a pretty aggressive snap back in negative gamma territory. And if you're trying to buy the dip, it goes both ways. When we're in negative gamma territory, typically liquidity dries up, volatility increases, and you can get some wicked snaps in both directions. So let's take a look at some of the sectors that are performing. Energy is on its way out of this downtrend here. You're seeing continued move to the upside. So nice little move out of there. XLU, so utilities, is still holding up rather well, just consolidating its recent breakout, which is another one that we're quite interested in. Consumer staples is getting some continued push there. One of the ones that I traded was CPB, Campbell's Soup. And that one made a nice move out of this tight contraction over here, right? This is why, once again, we look at stocks that are contracting. They contract and then they expand. We don't know that it's going to expand like this, but if it does, I mean, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for the next bigger move. Let's take a look at the Tesla. Yeah, Tesla's holding up rather well. It's coming into earnings, not too far from here. So, big binary event coming up. We don't know what's going to happen with that. Ugh. Semiconductors is continuing to get some follow through to the downside here too as well. This could very well be a double top, which would mean that we're, a double top measured move would be, something like this coming down to these lows, in this zone here around 230. So if we are going to get continued sell side, it would make itself and confirm a double top. It would be bringing us down to around 230 for semiconductors. IWM's holding up fine too. We're still getting some crazy swings here. Rips to the upside, pulls back down to the downside. You're seeing some wild volatility. And this is to be expected, right? Our expected moves were crazy yesterday, and we're seeing that kind of stuff today. Q's is still getting that follow through here to the downside too. So yeah, watch out here. This is some dangerous stuff. Okay. Okay. All right, so downside watch here still for the Qs, 476.02. I'll take a look back over here at this negative, or this chart. This is the S&P 500 on the 30-minute time frame. The gamma flip line is right here. Okay. Still, this divergence is growing pretty strong here, but we don't have convergence, but right, this is crossing under zero. We're starting to lose this gray convergence slightly. So that means selling, but get selling, but get selling, and then we're in negative gamma territory. Everything could amplify. All right, let's pull up some individual names. We can do that. If anybody wants to drop some into the chat, we'll do that. Hey, what's up, Dajan? Yeah, it has been a long time. Should you buy SQQQs? I mean, I wouldn't be a fan of buying SQQQs here in the hole, no. Right? I don't like shorting down here into the hole, right? So I'd look for at least some sort of a bounce if you're trying to establish a position. But as we're coming into the lower daily expected mover, we're not too far. I don't know if it's going to reach there or not. Like, I don't really want to take the chance of shorting here just to catch this when I could potentially get my face ripped right back off. The risk to reward for shorting in the hole just doesn't make much sense to me. That doesn't mean you can't be right doing it, but think of it in the terms of doing that same thing through the course of 10, 15 years. If you keep doing that continually, chances are it's a losing strategy to shorten the hole or buy when it's really high, after a very strong move. An extended move, meaning, right, buying because it's high is not a good enough reason to not buy. Or not buying high is, right, you wait for consolidations and so forth. We can take a look at NOC. What's NOC been up to? Okay, knock. Knock. They got earnings around the corner, Dajan. So it's kind of a little binary, but we could potentially call this a little double bottom here, right? So if this is going to be a double bottom, your target, would be, back up to this 200-day moving average, which, I mean, it would kind of make sense too, because this has been, if you just look, it's been kind of going sideways. It's kind of been just going sideways here in this chart, right? So we've seen pockets of good consolidation in breakouts, but it's a rather choppy overall. So the earnings is going to really, determine what's going on. And by the look of the history of this chart, they don't know what's coming out on earnings. So look at the weekly time frame. I mean, the weekly, it's the same thing, right? The weekly time frame, it's still kind of just in this range over here. It's below some of these key averages. Yeah. It's going to be interesting. I'd want to see what earnings looks like. JPM, yeah, let's take a look at some of these banks. JP Morgan's coming off a little bit here. This one reported the other day, saw some nice follow through, and we're just coming in a little bit. I mean, overall, it's strong. It's pulling back. Why is it selling off? Why is it selling off? Well, because it went up, 3 days in a row, closing at near the highs. So it's coming in a little bit. It's consolidating. It's pulling back right now into a rising 5-day moving average. RSI is getting, burnt up here a little bit. So yeah, this stuff happens. Let's take a look at Schwab, because Schwab got absolutely and utterly obliterated last 2 trading sessions, and now we're getting some follow through to the downside. But Schwab did pull into a prior area where we saw a little bit of prior support. I'd be careful stepping into this one. If you're playing tactically, that makes sense, but that's a pretty aggressive sell-off in a very short period of time here on Schwab. Hey Josh, the gamma levels on TradingView don't exist. I have to put them in there. I'm pulling them from a different source, from Gamma Labs. Let's take a look at Roku. Yeah, let's take a look at Roku. It looks like it's trying to build some sort of a base here. The 20 days starting to pull up, the 50 days starting to flatten, neutralize. We kind of consolidated here and saw a little bit of a breakout. It's just overall, like, the structure is, sideways, and the 200-day, we're still below that. So the shorter term and medium term, right, we're starting to see some potential strength to maybe come retest up in these levels over here, like 72 would be the target, right? But I'd probably just watch and trail this 20-day moving average, the 50-day moving average. Right. Look at the weekly time frame. The weekly time frame, it's been going sideways for a long time too. Not much of a trend. This followed textbook, like the double top. you know, and or the 4 stages. You go accumulation, markup, distribution, decline. This could be stage 1, eventually trying to move into a stage 2. Yeah, we'll take a look at some of those semiconductors. CELH, I tried to trade and I caught some, and then I re-answered and I caught a little bit. This is just a high beta name that's been seeing some sell side, and it's kind of pulling into and around this lower area here where we've seen support before. So maybe around this 50 range, maybe if we undercut it and then see a turn back up, maybe that produces some sort of a bounce up. Could be an opportunity. I know a lot of people will call this like, the big double top, and then you'd measure the move down. That's always a possibility too, because we are seeing some continued weakness there. But overall, yeah, the trend is down. So if you're playing this, it has to just be for a tactical bounce, or you're trying to invest in it because you think it's going to be going, for whatever reason, fundamentally, I guess would be the case. Technically speaking, I'm speaking more technically speaking here. So we said AMD, we heard AMD, nice breakout on AMD, completely reversed on itself right back to the 200-day moving average. And semiconductors seeing weakness. This is getting pretty crisp to the downside too as well. So yeah, I mean, I'd love to say just buy the dip here, but you got to be careful here in negative gamma territory, and then also below a declining 5-day moving average. All right, so it looks like price is trying to come into this 55.50 here. I want to just take a look here. What's Amazon doing? I'm still interested in Amazon. I think this is kind of panic at the disco in Amazon, to be honest. Wow, what a huge range candle on Amazon. Yeah, I wouldn't even mind having a little position down here, to be quite honest. Like one for a potential turnaround trade. Even if it comes down, like if I start off with like, if I'm building a position, like so max position, let's say I can break that. Let's say if I do a max position and break it into 3 increments, right? 3 increments. I can do 1 here, 1 there, and even 1 down here, or even break it, 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, and it would average into a position right in the middle, and it would still be well within that trend for like a longer term, like swing trade. But I think that there's a shorter term bounce within something like Amazon, and even Microsoft. I think a lot of this is going to be panic. So I think we just got to be patient. I think even with today's price action, looking at market net flow, we started to get a little bit of red convergence here, but it's always likely to come back up and retest these gamma flip lines. I just don't like initiating into this stuff, unfortunately, I can see, I mean, I know other people do. And quite honestly, the risk to reward, like just a small position because volatility is big for a bounce trade. I mean, let's just call it where it's at right now. We'll draw little dots, right? We basically said that right here, and Amazon, we'll paper trade it. Well, I'll paper trade it right here. I'll just do it where it's at right now, right? We'll edit properties. We'll go green. We'll make it green, so that's kind of like, okay, this is kind of where we talked about these names here. Okay. All right, let's take a look at some of these other names here. Okay, yeah, thanks guys for posting all these up in here. We got NVIDIA. Yeah, NVIDIA is making a little bit of a tear back here. Remember, it's done this before, and they've gotten faded, okay? Now, this is crazy if this is true because, okay, hear me out. Bear markets, they typically come in 3 waves, and markets are fractal, right? They really are fractal. And I'm just calling this out because this is obviously not a bear market. This is just today. But we had a 1 wave, we had 2 wave, and we had 3 waves down. Right? So the reason why I'm calling this out is because if markets are fractal, and you can see like in big bear markets, you typically get 3 waves. Like look at even the SPX, and not even bear markets, like corrections sometimes too. So like for example here, right? 1 wave, 2 wave, 3 wave, SPX, right? You see this all the time. You know, you get your first wave and you get some reprieve, boom, and then boom again. It happens all the time. And the reason why I'm saying that now is because I looked at NVIDIA, I'm like, holy moly. You know, from a 1 minute time frame, was that the 3 waves, and now are we going to start to try to build a base and go up? and that we're in negative gamma territory. If buyers start to get buying, you can rip it. You can rip it right back. That'd be funny. That'd be funny. The idea here would be you'd want to see a higher low, right? We're still seeing a series of lower highs. Very technical, look how perfect this is. These lower highs and lower lows are like super measured, like textbook. Ding, 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 ding. Hey Marmot, yeah, I'm glad to be back on Twitch too. I was on it the other time, but it kept on failing for whatever reason. I don't know what was going on there. So yeah, NVIDIA on the daily time frame, we're technically up on the trading session, and we're pulling back into a rising 50-day moving average. So I think a lot of people are just kind of freaking out. Rightfully so. I mean, this is where people freak out. When volatility increases, people get really emotional. SMCI, this was one that I was watching for a break. It actually gapped and went away, so I couldn't enter it because, you know, I prefer it not to do that. And it did reverse back into its consolidation and break back down. But overall, here still, too, it's kind of just holding these higher lows. So yeah, I'd be more interested to see if this comes back up into this range and resets back up here. I'm not quite interested down here, even though that it's very possible to bounce right back up. It's a little bit too high of beta for me for this one specifically. What other names did we mention over here? We said Intel. Yeah, Intel's still holding up here. I mean, it's coming into earnings not too far away. Do I see a trade setup specifically here? No, not really. I think more of the trade was one here when we talked about it probably last, and then over here when it got very tight and started breaking out. All right. And now we're getting some pretty sizable volatility just by looking at the range of these candles. Now, if we're going to continue to the upside, if this is like a little pennant, you know, a little flat, like a continuation would bring us right to the 200-day moving average. This is currently an inside trading day. So I'd say, okay, a stop would be below the low of this day, or maybe the low of this pattern, and I'd be still trying to play it up. I'd try to follow the flow to the upside, but I would respect it if it broke down. So that would be Intel. ASML. Hey, Marius, thanks for subscribing to the channel. Hey, and Daijan, thanks for the tier 3 sub for 5 months in a row out here on Twitch. Yeah, these type of moves are a little scary to just like walk into, people. So ASML is down 1.38% today, but I mean, this day on earnings, man, it took a big hit. And typically weak stocks get weaker. So on earnings gaps down, yeah, they can consolidate and pull up. But what we've seen time and time again is you see some sort of continuation to the downside. It's not always the case. For example, like Meta, right? Meta, we gap on earnings and we started flowing up. Now I look at, like, we came up in this channel, now we're breaking back down, where we're not even crazy too far away from the earnings move. But look at stuff like maybe Lululemon. You know, and these are just examples, but you have this bearish earnings move. It consolidated and people were like, should we buy the dip? Should we buy the dip? Well, no. Well, what about now? Well, I actually even traded it right here. But then you have to be aggressive to get out, because look at it, followed back through the downside, and then it followed more to the downside. So yeah, I'd be cautious just going, you know, ham on one of those. Even Tesla, I mean, look at Tesla had earnings and people were like, yeah, I bought earnings dip. And they're like, see, yeah, I'm so smart. Right? down even further. It wasn't until here where we really started to see some consolidations and some strength, and then the 50 and the 20 days started turning back around, you know. Let's take a look at XBI. So XBI had a big breakout. This is really helping, you know, small caps. You know, it was XBI, KRE, these type of biotechs and so forth. But yeah, this is coming in a little bit, right? Look how big this breakout was. Were you ready for this breakout? All right, we were. We came into a prior area of supply and it's pulling back in. So what I like here is like, okay, so we're pulling in. I would say just be patient here, right? Because I would like to see it come back in, or even if it comes, you know, jumps up and like, oh no, I missed it. See if it flags out. And we're gonna get a continuation move, right? It's just pulling in here. What if this goes like this, right? And just breaks down without, you know, and big bull trap. It could be. But we have the rising 20, rising 50, rising 200. Now it's just coming in after a massive move, right? So if it came back into the 20-day moving average, and then we started to see strength from that level, sweet. That's a good setup. IWM is sitting roughly at the lows of the day. Just weird price action overall. Let's take a look at gold miners again. These are down 0.62%. Not much has changed here, which I'm still like, what is going on here with the miners? Because I saw silver the other day, and there's typically such a strong correlation. Silver was down like 3+%. We're getting some follow through here, but it's almost at the rising 50-day moving average. And then what I noticed was when silver was bouncing intraday, the miners bounced and ripped with it. So I'm like thinking to myself, oh boy, so if silver starts bouncing, maybe miners continue this little move. But then I look at dollar, and the dollar sold off, and the dollar is bouncing back today, which we were kind of prepared for. And this could put pressure on various, you know, metals, currencies, right? GC, but GC is actually up on the day. So these correlations they could be potentially, you know, adjusting, changing, delayed. They may come back. Very interesting, just interesting overall. Just interesting stuff overall. Let's take a look at MicroStrategy. Somebody had mentioned MicroStrategy. Hey, what's up, Ice? Finally able to watch a stream. Cool, man. I'm glad that you're checking it out. We're just taking it easy today. In the midst of all this kind of crazy volatility here. It's pretty wild. MicroStrategy. So, okay, these cryptocurrencies, before they ripped, we talked about some of these. Look at Cypher. So Cypher we talked about right here on the Stock Market Brief Show. This thing went 70%. Now, it wasn't just Cypher. I mean, I'm blown away. I didn't trade these. But hopefully, you know, somebody caught these moves. But the price action here was also, what was so interesting to me is price action was getting tight while Bitcoin was seeing a little bit of volatility. And to me, that just made sense. Like, hey, maybe the correlation is going to break here. Maybe we're going to see either a break to the downside and or a pretty expansive move to the upside. Either or. So we looked at Riot. We looked at, like, I think it was CLSK. And then, yeah, like it was down here. We basically said, yeah, under 15, be bearish. But if it holds above, I mean, look at this break. It just moved right to where we're, right to these prior areas of supply. Crazy. So I think to get a better idea for the equities and then crypto equities and Bitcoin, I like to pull up my Sailor to Shift tool. We'll give an update on that. It's Thursday right now, so we'll see, and I'll update the. Let's do. I'll show you what it's at as of yesterday, but then I'll update it with the gold on there. So this is what it was as of yesterday. So it's still technically underneath that negative rate of change. So we haven't had actually the crossover yet and the close above it and a trigger. So we're just still on that sell signal, sell trigger. We're basically, right here. This was where the sell signal, sell trigger was, and we're slightly, the price action is slightly up a little bit from the sell signal, sell trigger. So it came down pretty significantly, snapped back, and the rate of change is starting to turn back up here. Let's see, though, if I update this chart to just like GLD, it can give us maybe it literally looks the same. It's pointless for me showing it. It's the same thing. Here comes S&P 500, a little bit more here. Keying in on that 5550. Qs still not too far off of that daily expected move. And the convergence is still red here. And the divergence. See if anything's changed from a gamma perspective. Yeah, just more focus on that 55.50 level. Let's take a look at SPX chart itself by CBOE. Yeah, we're actually under the 55.50 on the SPX from CBOE. I'm looking at the I'm looking specifically at this chart, which is the S&P 500, SPX 500 CFDs by Owanda, and the 55.50 level is still down a little bit further. This one just has the continuity. You can use either one, to be honest, and there's always going to be degrees of freedom where price kind of goes. I just showed the Sailor to Shift tool. Where would I like to buy more NEM? We can take a look at NEM. Let's take a look here. Look at this sell side, man. Just watch out. Holy moly. They are coming for you. This is what negative. Why did I pull up SEHW? I didn't mean to pull up SEHW. I wanted to pull up Amazon again. Yeah, so this is where I said where I'd be looking to where I think you'd be fine with the entry. Clearly, we're still getting continued sell side. Then Microsoft, the same thing. I would imagine we're still getting continued sell side there too. Yeah, we talked about it right there. And then Nvidia, I didn't put one on there, but Nvidia. Pulling back, but we still haven't taken out this low yet. So that's one of the things that I said to pay attention to, how we kind of have those, waves in three, but we'll see if this continues. Pulling into the 55.50 here. I can't help but want to actually take a stab down at these levels. I don't think it's ready yet. All right. Take a look at some more of these names here. So 554. I want to just pull this up. All right, we're back. Now we touch the daily expected move for the S&P 500. We're below the month-to-date anchored volume weighted average price. Pretty much straight fashion right down into these areas, but we have reached what the market has priced in for the week. Okay? S&P 500 has officially tagged its lower weekly expected move. It's been a pretty strong sell-off to this point. This is, it's happy place right now. And a lot of the times what we notice is the price action could actually trade in and around the weekly expected move once we're there. So to see it bounce back up and see it come back in, or see it come out and then come back in, always possible, okay? Underneath the 5-day moving average, right? And it's starting to decline as we're down here. If it starts bouncing up, we'll see if it puts in another lower high. Lower low is taken out. This is where trends change. This is where people get tripped up. We're in negative gamma territory, right? So now market conditions officially have changed. Be careful swing trading. You get a lot more whipsaws, a lot more craziness. Things move back and forth and so forth. I'm not too sure what that is, HUH1V. 1V. Is that like yeah, I'm not too sure what that is. I think these are outside of like the typical markets that I look at. Thanks, Andrew. Yeah, BRKB was pretty insane, huh? BRKB. Yeah, this was so cool. Look at this move. I mean, okay, so once again, like, I don't know that this was going to happen. So, like, I want to just reiterate, I don't know that this is going to happen. So, if it moves like this and they're like, wow, look at dude, he called that. I didn't actually call this to happen. I just said price action was getting very tight and we're going to see an explosive move. That's just the basic principle of technical analysis. So I'm just reading the chart for what it is, and I'm trying to create a setup in this context, right? So you play the breakout, okay, cool. And whatever the outcome is, if it comes down here and stops you out, well, then you risk this much for potential nice reward. And here, like, I mean, this is just an incredible move, right? No doubt about it. I would be updating my stop losses at the lows of these, you know, and then when I get stopped out on one of those lows, I'd probably take, you know, whatever. And I probably would have taken profits, you know, 1/3. I didn't trade, no, I did trade BRKB, but I didn't hold it up to here. I think hold on a second. Let me actually see. I'm going to my orders. I did get out this day. I got out this day. I think I took a third here, and then I think I exited. Yeah, I exited this day. So I got out early. But if you didn't get out early, you would just update your stops at the lows of each of these days. I forget why I did that. I got to look back at my log and see if I can remember why. Could have just been moving money to another trade. Okay, let's take a look at NVIDIA. NVIDIA is still up on the trading session. Still choppy up in these areas. Microsoft's down 1.78%. Kind of floating around where we kind of targeted. And then Amazon got smushed back down. It's down 3% on the trading session. It's kind of floating around this area too. S&P 500 continues to see sell side into and around that 55.50. If you're looking at the SPX chart from CBOE, it's there right now. And then our negative divergence, red convergence, order flows to the downside. Order flow to the downside. Yeah, we can take a look at a couple more of these names. We'll look at, yeah, somebody has mentioned Oxy. We'll take a look at Oxy. Yeah, Oxy's looking good. A lot of energy names are doing good, right? Some continuation. We're breaking actually out of this little, this prior high. So we have a higher low. Now we just have today a higher high. So that could be a potential change in trend there. There's actually a lot of good names in the energy sector that we talked about for XLE. Specifically, we looked at the top ones like XOM. Right? We talked about XOM right here on this day on the Stock Market Brief Show. Literally pulling into this gray shaded box right here. Bam, huge move. Okay, XOM, CVX was another one. These are the top holdings in XLE, right? Boom. We saw a nice move from this. We came back in, didn't even take out this low. It's some follow through. Now, on yesterday's market brief, we talked about how energy, if it outperforms S&P 500, it's not typically a good thing. And that's kind of what we're seeing here today. We're seeing energy outperform the S&P 500. Energy's up 1.19%. S&P 500 down 0.74. All right. Yeah, we'll pull up ARK and small caps. So ARK is pulling in, but overall we did see a nice breakout right here. Boom, and now it's coming in a little bit. So see how this consolidates and see if it sets back up again for another push up, 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 and away. But we did see a nice move, right? Some good volume on this breakout. Now we're just consolidating. We're pulling in a little bit. So we got to wait to see how this sets back up again if you missed the little breakout. IWM you had mentioned. Yeah, this one's at roughly lows of the trading session again. Remember, the implied volatility in IWM is through the roof, right? It's crazy, right? If I go into volatility, I mean, look at implied volatility rising with this. So we call this out because like this is where people get just thrown for the, you know, thrown out to the woodshed or the wood chipper. This is absolutely insane. So if you know, trying to press big position sizing with implied volatility rising and price action, you're going to get wide range candles, huge moves back and forth. And that's what we're seeing right now. We're seeing some pretty wild price action. All right, SPY is still, now SPY is actually at the daily expected move, and we're trading outside of the weekly expected move here too as well. So the selling, but get selling as it stands at this current moment. And yeah, we still have bad market flow. We'll see if anything's changed from this perspective, from 0 date. Nope, 55.50 is still the main level. Traders aren't really reaching down further. I guess 5,500 is growing in size, but still the main area is 55.50. And if that doesn't change, SPX coming up 2 points here, right back up to 55.50. I mean, we're basically there. That's SPX. SPX 55.50 is right here. So we can be pinned and kind of boodle around these levels, okay? If I look at this specific chart, 55.50 is still right here, still beneath us, but you know, it's give or take a few bucks, a few points or whatever. Yeah, we'll check ARM. Let's take a look at ARM. ARM is coming into earnings season here soon too, but yeah, we're just getting pretty significant sell side here. I'd just wait how this tightens up. Like to create a trade here, it just doesn't make any sense. It's like play for a reflexive bounce because it's oversold on a shorter time frame. Come back up to 164. Yeah, cool, maybe. But if the sell side does continue, yeah, it could be aggressive. Okay, so looking at the weekly chart, maybe clears up some noise, but right into this area where you had prior resistance, can be prior support. We're pulling back into that area right now, into and around the 10-week moving average. So yeah, for like a bounce trade, maybe, right? The 50-day, it's still, still right here. We got some sell side, but yeah, overall, just make sure you size your positions correctly in the midst of like pretty strong volatility. Mondelez is also in a downtrend. I think that there's better looking consumer staples than this, but we do have earnings around the corner, so I think we'd have to see how that goes. The 200 days still declining, 50 days declining, 220 days starting to turn up. Overall, it hasn't gone anywhere. This is kind of why I looked at stuff like, Campbell's soup, right? See how it was, the 20-day was rising, the 50-day was rising, the 200-day was starting to curl up, and price action got very tight here. So that right there was like, these are the type of setups that I would look for, And it was like roughly at the highs of the year. So that is what I like. Even consumer staples, if you look at like XLP, it was doing something similar, right? It was consolidating right on this trend, and we saw a nice little breakout here. Meta's now up on the trading session. Well, it's been up on the trading session, but it's still holding up rather well right now. Kind of just flagging in around this area here after a pretty aggressive sell-off. Kind of just in that little consolidation. We'll see here if that turns into something where we can get past this little volume shelf and maybe retest the 5-day moving average. Almost there to that 55.50 right here. It's like almost like just a stone's throw away. Hey Rod, I do give a midday updates on occasion. I just started doing that here. I post it in the Discord, the link, but if you just go to my Patreon, go to the Patreon. If you're not a paid member, you can join as a free member. You don't get access to the Discord, but I post it right on the Patreon platform. So if you download the app, you'll get notified, or you might get an email when I post it. But it's on the Patreon. It's on Patreon, the platform. I'll put the video there for paid and free members. Cool. All right, yeah, 55.50 reclaimed. Yeah, I can look at DIA. Yeah, we'll look at DIA. So DIA is the diamonds. I mean, we saw price. I think I was looking at XLI is what I like. Yeah, so I liked how XLI was consolidating right here, and it's pretty similar to the Dow Jones. And we saw a nice breakout right here, and it's just consolidating this recent run up on good volume. So I'd like to see it flag out, maybe a few more days going sideways. But if I look at something like DIA, right? Yeah, it made a big breakout here too, and I would like to see it consolidate, let the averages catch up a little bit, maybe even a test back into these areas. You know, and then these to catch up. That to me would look like a good setup here for continuation. I wouldn't like buy right here. If you got in on a breakout, then you're pretty set. Then you could deal with some consolidations. You can take partial profits. You can update your stops and kind of see how you see fit. I don't know why this made me think of Disney. Disney, DIS. People like, oh my gosh, I saw so many people like trying to pump this stock up. It was crazy. I'm like, why, dude? Like, take your shot, take your opportunity, but like drawing more lines on the chart will not help you out. It just won't. And Disney's just been constantly getting hammered. It looked good, a good setup for like a little pullback to our breakout area, and it came down, and it's like, okay, get out. Right now, price action is getting tight. It's under an inclining 200-day, declining 50 and 20-day. So the short-term trend is still down. Are Qs ready for a small bounce? Maybe. Yeah, they're probably close. Yeah, probably right around this area. It'd be interesting to see just quick flush and then just snap back. You know what I'm saying? We're kind of in that area, but just be aware that we don't have. I mean, we're still like negative all across the board here. Doesn't mean that this can't start flowing down here, but the cumulative net premiums for puts are up, cumulative net premiums call below that zero line, and the flow is to the downside. So yeah, we can see a bounce, that's for sure. But just be willing to get out when if wrong, like, because this sell side can continue. We're in negative gamma territory. I don't know about the flip line for the Qs. For SPY, do I even have a flip line for SPY? I just look at the S&P 500, SPX flip line, which is 5580. Let me see if I can find one for SPY. Yeah, 560 is the flip line in SPY, so we're below that. Like I said, I pay more attention to the S&P 500, but you can look at that SPY too. All right, let's see here. Yeah, these rips are getting a little bit smaller in size to the downside. Like I said, we're right outside of the weekly expected move, outside of the daily expected move. Probably in the vicinity of a bounce here. Some reprieve, right? Doesn't mean anything necessarily, but if the bounce starts actually getting some momentum, remember, buying but gets buying, so you're going to see some wicked moves. And I think we're kind of floating in that area now. I want to take one more look there at NVIDIA. And look at how NVIDIA, right? Okay, here you go. So remember we talked about waves in 3? I mean, I'm just using this as a fractal perspective. Typically, bear markets do have waves of 3. But I did find it interesting that we saw, wave, wave, wave. Then we started to move up, and now we're kind of just matching highs right here. But if we do start breaking from that, this could be a potential higher low. I would say this high would want to be broken, which means that if that is the case, and we're starting to get a little reprieve here, and NVIDIA starts to catch a bid, I would say that we can probably start to see other tech names maybe follow suit. Google's at the lows of the trading session. Google's getting absolutely just smothered here. Amazon, pretty much smothered. Kind of right in that area where we marked right here, right? We marked this area here. 50 cents. Meta. What was I drawing here on Meta? Oh yeah, the little kind of a flag here on Meta in a downtrend. And overall, tech is down 0.81%, right? It's a pretty aggressive positive divergence here too as well. Look at that. That is pretty steep. So yeah, to see a bounce, yeah, I would say we'll probably see this back up at 225 at some point. All right, positive divergence, pretty aggressive sell-off on, you know, multiple time frames into a rising 50-day. Potential little double bottom if it takes out this little low here, or this high right here. But then again, you're just you know, fighting. There is some negative flow here. The edge right now is to the downside, but the downside's extended. So if we get some reprieve and this stays how it is, it could just be another dead cat sort of bounce. I wish it was more clear. It's not. SP 500 flip line has not changed today. It is 55.80. We're under it right now. I would imagine we're going to come back and test it at some point here. And the reason why I kind of say that is because we've been floating around this 5,500, or sorry, 5,550. Look at this. They're starting to reach out for 5,500. Okay. Let's see what they can do. Let's see what we can do. Right now, there's not much going on below 55.50, so that's why I think we can get pinned around here or bounce from it. So under 55.50, I'd say proceed with caution, especially if they keep reaching for 5,500 and that this market net flow stays like this. Because we might begin ourselves a bounce, but that might be quickly reversed. Floating around the daily expected move and weekly expected move in the happy place for the S&P 500. Qs, however, are pretty darn extended. So Qs came down to and around their daily expected move. And this is what I'm saying. Like if I add in the RSI over here or whatever, okay, you do have that positive divergence here, right? Pretty aggressive move to the downside, and we're well outside of the weekly expected move. So yeah, I could see the case for a bounce here, for sure. Here or in the very near future. You know what I want to look at too is, let's take a look at the Qs and we'll look at the, yeah, oh my gosh, careful here, man. There's still a $3.59 implied move for the day. It's only 9:11, well, Pacific Standard Time, okay? $3.59. At the beginning, going into today, there was a expected move of over $5. So volatility came off a little bit, but that's still gigantic. That's still bigger than some regular expected moves. Like on July 16th, the expected move was $3.73. This is basically the same size. Take a look at IWM. IWM's currently at 162, so that came off a bit, right? It was at $3, so this, you know, fell about a half, halfway off the implied vol. And then SPY, $2.63. There's still a lot of volatility here, people. That's a lot of volatility. That is still a lot packed in for today's trading session. Careful. Yeah, I would just be, overall, looking at this, man, I don't even know if I want to touch it. I don't even know if I want to actually touch it. It's not interesting. I don't even know if I want to try to be funny and tactical. High vol equals high risk. Yeah, so in times of high volatility, so in times of high volatility, the way that you mitigate that is simply just smaller position sizing, right? That's all you have to do is, okay, if volatility is this high, don't do your normal size positions, cut it down, right? So if I'm looking at like SPY and it's like double the implied volatility than it is usual, I'm not going to go, if I go in there with my regular position size, that means technically I'm doing 2 times my regular position size because volatility is twice, right? Think of it that way. And if volatility is, you know, dropping, right? If volatility is down significantly more, then you can maybe size it up a little bit. And that's the same basic principle of contraction and expansion, right? Things contract, you can put on some size, and if it expands but it goes against you, you get out quick. But if it goes for you, you can see some pretty explosive moves. My thought here is we already seen an explosive move and volatility came off, but like hardly, which tells me that this thing can just go boom and fly right back up, or boom, right? So if you take it, just, yeah, smaller positions. That's it. Thanks, Marmot. Yeah, let's take a look at VST. What's VST? Vista Energy Corp. Oh man, a lot of these like kind of these little energy names. So I was watching really quick. I was watching CEG, and I was watching it right here, but we didn't get a breakout. We got the breakdown. So this one is off my list of names to watch. We could potentially play a bounce back, but I was looking for this setup and a breakout continuation, but it broke down. So I'm looking at VST and it's kind of similar. Yeah, can we see a bounce back? Yeah, for sure. Absolutely, right? We're pulling back into a prior area of resistance. Prior areas of resistance can become potential support. But like, is the setup ready? Is it there? You know, maybe, perhaps. I mean, if you're looking at this channel and it's coming back down into it to see a little bit of a bounce, yeah, sure. Technically, we have a little positive divergence here. So yeah, to see a little bit of a bounce back, you can play this tactically all day long, right? For little bounces. But if I'm trying to swing trade it, I just prefer to wait for the more tighter consolidations. So you can always start like starter positions, and then if you breaks down through the low or comes down further, you can get out or so forth. What's up with Rivian? Rivian's coming into earnings not too far from here. I mean, overall, it's just flat on the flat here. It's not doing much. We did see some strength here, and now we're getting consolidation, and it's above the 200-day. So actually, if we consolidate here a little bit more, I mean, it would look probably pretty good for a breakout continuation, especially at the 50 and the 20 days start to move up. But earnings around the corner kind of stifles things because you can just have a crazy nice earnings report that the market loves, or you can come right back down. So paying attention to the implied move for this is going to be important as we kind of approach that date. But yeah, as it now, we saw some strength and now we're getting some digestion. So, I mean, it looks cool. It looks good right there. Tesla's up 2.3%, so Tesla has some relative strength today. Tesla's actually kind of consolidating right here pretty nicely on that 5-day moving average. So Tesla looks pretty strong here. If it starts breaking back down, maybe watch out. But just on the shorter time frame here, I mean, this looks pretty good, right? You have lower highs, higher lows, tight price action into the 5-day. This is a 15-minute time frame. So move right up to 260, maybe $6 per share up here. Be cool. And then if it breaks down right through here, then obviously watch out. Microsoft's still at the lows of the day. This thing is just getting pummeled right now. Near the lows of the day. Kind of still floating around this area that we called out though. So it's actually kind of just building its base. Not actually too bad there. And then Amazon's now breaking to the lows of the day. So Amazon's getting a lot of weakness here. I'm interested to see what the ATR is on this thing. Holy moly, man. Let's look at the regular ATR. Let's go ATR. I'm just looking at like the 1 day. Oops. Yeah, pretty rare move. I don't care about the earnings days. Yeah, earning days. Yeah, both of those were, well, no, this was, I don't know what this was. Yeah, I mean, pretty rare to see an ATR of $8 plus, just looking back to the left of the screen. A lot of them fell on earnings or right before earnings. Earnings. Yeah, pretty rare move in Amazon. See this sell-off right here led to a pretty big move. That was earnings. Yeah, it's a pretty rare size candle in Amazon, how big this is. So yeah, the initial area where I said I'd be kind of interested, you can even, a potential like a starter is right here. I did paper trading, but now it's kind of lower than that right now. It's kind of just floating in and around. I don't know. This to me seems like we can have an easy inside trading day the next day and maybe up a little bit here. If you close it, you typically get follow through. But yeah, we'll see. Market net flow, still no change here. S&P 500 still hasn't hit that 5550 on this specific chart, but dang, we are like right there. We are like right there. See if Gamma Labs is reaching out anymore. We'll pull up some more individual names. 5550 is still the main area, but yeah, these 5500s, they're still growing here. And we take a look at AMD. I mean, yeah, AMD came in hard and fast after that breakout, so that's never like a great sign. But typically on expanded move to the downside, you know, into a rising 200-day moving average, there's probably opportunity in here to bounce back into kind of like where the volume was traded. But just understand, like, you understand that the market conditions are currently different than they were a few days ago, right? We're below a declining 5-day moving average, both in the SPYs and the Qs. Yeah, we're extended to the downside, and extensions to the downside could happen fast. And then, though, on top of that, we're in negative gamma territory. So negative gamma territory, below 5-day moving average, this is where market conditions are different. This is specifically where volatility increases, liquidity dries up, and you get selling into selling like we're seeing today. And buying into buying, too, right? Buying into buying, selling into selling, and it throws people. Yeah, I mean, like I said, are we starting to kind of like, okay, we're starting to like kind of calm down here? Absolutely, right? Here's the cues, right? Somebody mentioned it's kind of tightening up here. Yeah, it is tightening up, right? And we're kind of like, we're seeing a little move. It came in a little bit. We're seeing a little bit move. It tightened up. Yeah, we've seen a pretty strong move to the downside, right? And we're floating in and around this area. Yeah, get ready. I mean, would not short here. If anything, I'd be looking for a technical bounce. That would be it. Technical bounce. Or do nothing and just sit on your hands. That's what I've been doing. I literally paper traded. Just to give you guys an example of like what it might look like, you know? Implied volatility comes from the options chain. So I look at implied volatility here on the left or right side of my Thinkorswim platform, but every platform is a little different. But if you go into their trade tabs or options tabs, you should be able to find some implied volatility. I have a video on that. If you just Google figuring out money expected moves, I think it should show up. It's a weird thumbnail of me going like this. Something stupid. I gotta change that thumbnail. Not trading better than a lost trade. Yeah, I mean, definitely. Doing nothing has saved me the most money. Yeah, exactly. If I were to target a bounce in the Qs, where would it be? Honestly, I don't even know if I'd have a target. Like if I'm talking, are we talking intraday or are we talking like daily time frame here? Because if I was saying like, yeah, I'm gonna go along the Qs, I would probably just hold it for the trading session. It would be one like there's one way you can play it is like, okay, you can go, if you're trading options, you can maybe look at like a shorter dated option if it makes sense. I don't trade options, but then you buy it and you have established risk. You're like, okay, it costs X amount of cost, $1 or $100 or whatever the case is. And I'm just going to hold it to the close. Right. So that could be one option, or you just like, okay, I'm going to buy X amount of shares and I'm going to hold it to around the close. If you know, that would be just an idea of where you can just set it, and if it loses a certain amount, you get out. If it goes and closes higher, cool, you win. Because you don't know where this thing could really go, and you can target specific key areas. But the problem with like support and resistance in higher volatile environments is you get a lot more whipsaws, a lot of breaks, and that's where people get confused a lot. It's like, why isn't my support holding up? Why is my resistance? Why both? They're like, it's because volatility increases, and now it's like if the single line level, man, turns into these wide zones. So your position sizing and everything has to be altered and affected differently. Yeah, and market net flow hasn't even came off yet. I mean, this has been red convergence all day. Not all day, sorry, since this area here. Now, if this started turning gray while the red line was above the green, I'd say this is probably the area where we can actually see more of a sustained base or so forth. And it might come off. It might come off here. It might be the early where we have this high, lower high here. Maybe it is starting to come off. The green line's back above 0. Sure. How do I know that the index volatility is higher than normal? So Tony, I track daily expected moves. I could go into like the implied volatility here, and I could actually just keep an eye on it and look. And if in my Discord, like I have all the daily expected moves dating back for quite some time, and I could literally just go in here and be like, wow, yesterday's SPY was 3.86. The day before that was 2.8, 2.7, 2.8. Right? So out of nowhere, we have much more higher implied volatility going into today's trading session, which we knew, and we draw those levels out. So, I mean, look at this. This is that expected move right here that we drew out and we posted yesterday. Not only in the Discord, I shared these all on the market brief, and I usually do the daily expected moves for the SPY, but we're right there. We're actually below it. And if you think about this in terms of probabilities, right, 68% of the time you close within the 1 standard deviation move. Yesterday, we had a 3 standard deviation move, I think, or it wasn't in SPY, it was like in Qs, we had a 3 standard deviation move. So the higher probability here is that we come back in to around the weekly expected move and we just trade in and around this area. Now, if we start breaking from this area and volume picks up, things could get ugly very fast. I don't think that's going to be the case at this current moment because 0 date levels. I would think it's the case if this continues to hold and this 5,500 continues to grow, but it's just not there yet. It's not there yet. If these red days still occur, QQQ, would you look into swing trading SQQQ? Yeah, maybe on a bounce if it's going to hold, but I'm not really interested in shorting tech now. I like short, like I like fade, like I just don't short much. So I'm probably just the worst person to ask. Every once in a while I get tactical on a short if it really makes sense. I would not short the Qs where they're currently at right now because it's sunk off, right? And I don't feel like getting caught in a trade or tying up capital and so forth. And I already know how shorting is. Like shorting, unfortunately, is you enter into the position, you get out fairly quick, right? Unless if you really have a small position. And I usually have smaller size positions. But the thing about shorting that just sucks is, I mean, look at IWM, okay? if you shorted here, right at the high, you'd be like, wow, yeah, I'm going to short right there. It makes sense. And then it started blowing through that level. And you're like, yeah, I'm going to get out. And then it reversed itself. And then you're like, okay, maybe should I short here? Well, then if you did on open, it ripped right back up to the highs. And then it started reversing. So these short-sighted trades, you know, they're difficult. So you have to really, really, really be tactical and aggressive with them, because trends don't just die fast. They rip. They do their double tops. They do their, you know, head and shoulders, right? Which makes it all that much more difficult. And then when you short, it's typically an aggressive move to the downside, and then it rips right back in your face. And then you think about getting out, but then it comes down further. And in hindsight, you're like, well, if I just held, it would have been so easy. So when it comes to shorting the markets, I'm like, my thought is very simple. Half the size of my regular position size, and I typically am much more aggressive on a take, right? How do I use implied volatility in my trading? I use implied volatility to give me a future look as what risk can be moving forward, right? So right now I'm using it as, okay, we're outside of the daily expected move. This is based off of implied volatility. So I already know that the higher probability from looking at where the price action, how it came down, right? The price action came down pretty dramatically. We're at the implied move. The higher probability for me is that we come back up. Back up. We bounce. So that's how the higher probability would be that we come back in the weekly and the daily expected move. And we're right there. And then I take it to another level. That's how I look at implied volatility. Then I say, okay, well, what's market net flow telling me? Well, market net flow is actually kind of bearish right now, right? We're starting to see the green line pick up a little bit. This is starting to lose a little convergence. So now I'd be like, okay, if this turns gray, then I'd be more confident in a sizable bounce here, or, you know, stalling out around that weekly expected move. Okay, that's what I would look at. So I look at multiple aspects here. So yeah, Netflix. Let's take a look at Netflix. You tried ICE. You tried shorting IWM, and it happened exactly as I explained. Yeah, I mean it's hard, man. Shorting is tough, and you were right to short it, right? Like that's the thing is you look now and you're like, wow, dang, if I would have just held it, that'd be perfect. It doesn't play out that easy. So you got to scale back, look at a larger time frame, smaller position size, and that's what it is. Because you got to understand, when you short, it's not, if you're right, it's typically not an environment of lower volatility. It's not like a slow little drip to the downside. Typically, you're short, if it plays out, you get this aggressive move to the downside because stocks, they typically climb staircases and they take elevators down. It's not always the case, right? But the majority of times, it is. Do I have a coupon code for Trady Ticks? I don't, Anthony. I don't know specifically what in Trady Ticks you'd be using. Trady Ticks is a great platform. I have them, and then I also have them. I have the Trady Ticks bot suite in the Discord. So in the query channel, you can type in a bunch of commands, and it brings up a lot of information. But there are obviously some other extra benefits from just paying. I think it's like $70 a month for their subscription. But you do get a lot in the Discord for $9, and you get their query and all that stuff. But yeah, you definitely get the dashboard and everything, right? And if you pay the other subscription, right? Do I recommend trading pre-market? No, I don't trade pre-market. I don't bother with it. I just wait for the cash open, and I let the kind of the pool calm down a little bit too. Typically, I think that there's opportunities doing that for various traders. You just need a specific strategy in order to approach that. But I don't typically trade pre-market. No, I don't think I've done it once this year. I may have gotten out of a position before the open. So I guess that would be technically a trade. Okay, so Netflix, the implied move is... The Netflix implied move is $54. Holy macaroni, man. So $54 at this current moment. would be like down here to 588 to up here at 6. We're just gonna round up to 700. So that's what we're looking for. Netflix, 1 standard deviation move. We're probably going to hit one of these edges. If it comes in within expectations, we'll hit that for NVIDIA. Okay. Now it's in an up channel. We had nice tight price action here. I don't like, it's too much of a binary event. So if earnings wasn't a topic right now, I would say that this looks like a possibility. Is if we start breaking out, I think we can go try higher. That would be my assumption here, because we have higher highs and higher lows. We have a little bit of a pullback here, but then you have earnings, and earnings just they wrench out everything. If you're in it, if you're in the trade and you're well up in the money, you can just come to the trade tab and be like, okay, it's going to move 54 bucks. Am I okay with losing $54 a share? Maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. If you are in your current position, then you're like, okay, whatever. I don't care if it goes up or down. Cool. I'm up in the money. But if you're like, yeah, I don't want to lose $54 a share, but I wouldn't mind making $54 a share. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce my position going into earnings. And then if it sets back up, I can re-enter and add more into it. Or if it goes against me more and breaks a certain key level, I'll just get out, but at least I lock in some profits. All right. SPY's coming into the, just shocking, right? Shocking that we're seeing the SPY bounce back into the upper daily, or sorry, the lower daily in the weekly expected move. Market net flow is starting to actually, the convergence is starting to wane here. So if it turns gray, that's once again one of those good signs. 55.50 is still the main area. Let's take a look at those paper trade stuff that I've set up. So we're back at the key level that's about here. It wasn't a key level. My bad. It's not a key level. The level that we talked about, like, you know, I wouldn't mind going long here, but I was like, I'm just going to see how it plays out. We're right there. That's the paper trade. And then NVIDIA, I mean, we're pretty smart to call that, right? Those 3 ways down. Then if we put in that higher low, higher high, boom, we broke that one. I know people can call this now, oh, but it's flagging now. And yeah, they'd be right to do so too. I mean, it is what it is. Or you can say it was an inverse head and shoulder, right? This is the head and shoulders. And then this would be, oops. This would be the neckline break. What the hell? What the heck? What the heck, man? What's going on here? So if that was an inverse head and shoulders, this would be kind of like the target area. So back to around the opening range. Doesn't mean you can't go further than that or even reach there, but that would be the measured move. My mic is having problems. It could be because I keep on getting close to it. Thank you. Keep me posted on that. Okay, so then we said Microsoft too, right? Yeah, Microsoft's where we kind of targeted that area. It's back there. Still doesn't look good. Doesn't look good. But then again, none of this stuff looks really great. None of it does. Other than other than obviously energy. Energy was looking pretty good. Now we're actually kind of breaking down from here on energy. So careful there. XLRE, no. Utilities, flat on the day almost. Tesla's popping to the high of day. Yep, sure is. Nice. What do we call out on actually Tesla? Let's take a look here. So 15-minute time frame for Tesla. We said that this looks kind of nice here as it was holding these areas, flagging, getting tight on the 15-minute time frame. We had the lower highs, it's kind of breaking out, the higher lows, consolidation, and we said 260, which is about $6 per share. See if we get there. My mic is still having problems. I don't even think it's my mic. I think it's actually just me because I don't know how to use this equipment. The mic is a top of the line mic. So it's definitely me. I just don't know. Like I have it in a cloud lifter and I have it through this Wave XLR. And then all on top of that, I have to I'm on a Mac. So I have to use all this weird software to make my microphones and everything work. And I don't know what I'm doing. I have no idea what I'm doing. I think the reason why it gets static might possibly be me. Okay. I think I gotta turn down the settings or I talk too loud. Right now I can see it going into the deep yellow, almost red, where it could that'll crack it. I could probably talk right from here and you guys probably hear me fine. Hey, what's up? How you doing? Oh, yo, yo. Chicky, 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 bang, bang. I don't know. Sound is fine on YouTube. Yeah, I can probably click it down one. There we go. Okie dokies, artichokes. Let's see. Starbucks. Let's take a look at Starbucks. Starbucks. Starbucks actually looks like it could be setting up here. I mean, it's below. Okay, so we talked about Starbucks, I think, here, specifically on this day. Because we talked about, hold on, why I got all this stuff on here? Exit, RSI. Okay, yeah, there it is. So we talked about this positive divergence in Starbucks, how it was coming down. Now, earnings is around the corner again, but you can see that it started to pick up a little bit here. Now, earnings is gonna throw a wrench in it, like per usual, but the 5-day moving average is starting to turn up here, and then you have this kind of steady pullback. Nothing too crazy, and we're starting to break from that level right now. So to me, it's if you enter right here, you can have a stop under this low, maybe even target this high or potentially a higher trend to the upside in the short term for continuation of this positive divergence play. But then you got earnings, so yay. I gotta pull back up Schwab. Schwab is just interesting to me how much selling has been taking place here. Somebody in the Discord pointed out Schwab, when it was basically at its lows of the trading session. So what do you think about it? I'm looking at it, I'm it looks very scary, but it is pulling into this zone where we saw a bounce from. And he literally calls it out the moment it starts bouncing like this. And it went straight up to the close. Now it's kind of just pulling back in, consolidating. It's a nice, decent pullback, nothing crazy, right? So this can come right back up. Get some reprieve from this pretty significant sell-off here. Yeah, JPM's definitely getting hit today. I mean, but yeah, these banks are going to get hit. They're going to get hit because of just where they came from. That's the only reason I'd say why is there so much selling in JP Morgan? Dude, I mean, look back 10 days. Went straight up, Makes sense. Berkshire is the same thing. That magic music, Mike. Magic Mike music. Yeah, Schwab didn't even get whacked today. Schwab has been just took it out to the shed out back, man, for the last 2 days. Someone go check it. Someone go check on Schwab. You like Thinkorswim Active Trader? I don't trade on Thinkorswim. I use it more as just kind of a platform to do analysis and do stuff like that. But I don't trade on. I have like they closed my accounts because I didn't have any active money in there. So they're like, well, and then they like lost all my stuff. And I was like, can't be true. And they're like, well, if you put $50 in the account, we'll activate it again. We'll keep it going. And I was like, okay. So I have $50 in this account just sitting there. And being that I'm not registered as a professional trader, you can get free data. I don't know how to do that anymore since Schwab bought them out, but on the trade at TD America or whatever it was, like there was a setting you go to and you get like real-time data for free and all that good stuff. Cake's gonna break out. Let's take a look at Cake. Daily time frame for Cake. Yeah, this actually looks pretty good, man. Just in a range. Some might call this a Dorvis box. Little breakout would be good. The 50 days inclining, the 200 days starting to move up. It's above the 20 day. Cake looks good. It's above the rising 5-day moving average. Good old Cheesecake Factory. Good old Cheesecake Factory, where the menu is 75 miles long. I already have a hard enough time picking something. Let's go somewhere where the menu is 75 pages. How about that? Not everything could be potentially, like, no way everything could be cooked fresh if your menu is 75 pages long, okay? Impossible. So a lot of it has to be frozen. They used to actually, at Cheesecake Factory, they used to have this thing called a carpaccio. And I was like with my wife, and I was like, do you really feel comfortable getting a carpaccio here? And then we're like, screw it, let's just get it, because this was a while. I don't know if they do this anymore, but we got the carpaccio, and I was like, it was really good. I was like blown away. And like I'm a big fish guy, right? I grew up on eating fish, going fishing. You know, it's that Portuguese nature in my blood. Although I get seasick, but that's what all we ate as kids was just fish, basically. It's all we were fed is fish. And it was good. It was surprisingly good. So it must have just been fresh when we got it. Can't say that for everywhere I go. Sometimes you go to some places and you kind of have this like fishy kind of taste. And immediately, if it has that fishy taste, if it's not like that type of a fish, it's cooked different or weird. Ugh. No, something's wrong. Something's wrong. Something's off. Oh, man. It's making me think about some more tuna. Seared tuna at McCooney's. Forgot, I'm on a live stream. What are we doing? All right, so S&P 500, we saw this nice little green candlestick over here. Back inside the weekly expected move, ladies and gentlemen. Are we shocked? Are we so shocked? You have $5.99 in your... if you only have $6 in your Thinkorswim account, I'm about to pull out $80 myself. I'm about to take that $90 back and just leave $10 in there. I'm gonna take $99 out. I'm gonna leave $1 in there. Or should I just buy an option? Should I trade $100? Should I go for it? Oh. Do we have the Pokey Company? I haven't heard of the Pokey Company, but I've definitely seen Pokey places for sure. And I've been to a few of them and they are delicious. Yeah. I've had some really good Pokey spots. If you're a Pokey spot and your Poke Bowl is not good, that's not a good sign for your company. You said, yes, do it. Yes, do it. Oh, I'd lose it in a heartbeat. I would lose that $100 so fast trading an option. I'd rather collect interest on my $100. Just kidding. The mini monitors? These aren't mini, these are huge. That's how I read my screens. They're real. Yeah, there is, yeah, Cheesecake does have some bomb stuff. It does. I never go there anymore, so I haven't been for a while, but when we went, it was pretty good. It was fine. Me and my wife, we have acquired a fancy palate. Not that we understand what we're eating. We're like those people on TV when you watch like a Gordon Ramsay show, and they're eating, they're like, this is good. me and my wife always laugh at each other, like they don't know what they're talking about. And then we look at each other when we're at a restaurant, we're like, we don't know what we're talking about. Like, this is good. But it is good. Oh, it was cooked perfectly. I have no idea how to cook. I'm just saying it's cooked perfectly because it tastes good. You know? I have no idea. Zero clue. But if it's good, it's good. We're trading back. We're just trading around that weekly expected move, people. Market net flow, as it stands right now, we did start to get that gray bar of convergence. Now, this can go back to red, but we did start to wane and get out. And what has the market done since then? Well, we started to kind of try to gather our base, right? Find our footing, whatever. Okay, so let's take a look at the SPY here on the just intraday, 1 minute. And yeah, we're just chopping around here. So honestly, nothing to report here. Nothing to report. Now, when it does go gray like this, and you have a negative divergence, you can get chop, but you can also get counter trend moves. Meaning we can see bounces from these type of moves. Okay, and chop. So not really a clear edge for much, and we're just floating around this area here. In my main portfolios, no, I don't even trade options. Maybe every once in a while I'll throw some into a random account, like I did earlier this year, and I bought on Robinhood like this. I put $100 in, and I was like, I'll just put it in there, and then at the end of the day I'll close it out. And I forgot, completely utterly forgot that they close out your option contracts 30 minutes going into the close or whatever for risk whatever, or generally they do. And my contract went up 6,000%. It was going to turn $100 into like $6,000. And I go in to close it, super excited, and they closed it out 10 minutes after I opened the position. 10 or 20 minutes after I opened the position, because it was going into the close. Or an hour. I can't remember how long the position was on. It was like, regardless, they closed it out. I put it on and they closed it out. So I didn't get my money. That was my one option trade this year. It was a losing trade because they closed it out. I was super happy. And I'm not salty at all about it. Okay. Apple floating around, Microsoft floating around, Nvidia holding up rather well. Just doing its thing, choppy. Amazon floating around. Meta. Oh, look at that. Meta kind of broke out of that little flag we talked about. Berkshire is just pulling in a little bit, nothing crazy. Tesla still holding around these levels. Top performing sector of the day is energy, XLE. Let's take a look here and see if volatility came off any at all for the SPY on the 0 date, the implied move. Still 2.32 as the expected move, which is, I mean, that's still a sizable expected move. Yesterday's daily expected move, or the expected move for July 17th was $2.80. Right now, we've already had trade and it's at $2.30. So we still have quite a bit of volatility here. Our 30-minute candle closes in 7 minutes. If it does so like this, I know people can look at these 30-minute candles and be like, it's a morning reversal pattern. It depends on where it closes. But yeah, you get like this fast sell-off to the downside, right? You get this doji candle, indecision, and you get a nice green bar. It can mark a potential reversal if it starts breaking the highs. If it does do that, maybe target the gamma flip line. Back to 5580. Let me pull up the SPX. Yeah, 5580 is up here. Something interesting about this, like look at the 15-minute time frame. Do you notice here how like the range of the candles like show you the authority, right? They're pretty strong candles to the downside. Then it gets a little smaller of a range, a little bit smaller of a range, even smaller body. You get some continuation, but it's a small range. Then you get a very small body, smaller range, smaller range. This is just shows you that the emotion to the downside was quite significant. And then all of a sudden, you know, momentum is slowing. And you could see that visually through the ranges of these candles, that the authority of the candles, the authority of the move is closing off. It's pausing, right? Doesn't mean it can't continue, but it's pausing, it's slowing down. And then you slow down to this point, and then you're going to move back into an expansionary phase. And we kind of pop back up to the upside. And now, we'll see if we get some continued authority, or if it's going to already kind of come in and slow down. What's up, Jared? What broker is this? This is Thinkorswim. This is TradingView. My preferred type of trade is breakout trades. Yeah. Breakout trades, looking at the daily time frame. That's my preferred trade. Because I can just set a trade up and I can just kind of walk away and just be like, whatever. Set up my stop and go. Tom, about the cheesecake stuff, yeah. We look at corn. What's up with corn? Corn. Did you mean corn, like C-O-R-N, Mr. Monster? Or was that a typo? Let me know. Yeah, 69 Conquer. I don't really trade any options at all. I literally traded one option contract this entire year. And I shared it. What happened? Yeah. What's the ticker? I don't even know what the ticker is for corn on CFDs. I'm assuming on the TradingView ticker. I don't know what that is. Or what's it on Thinkorswim? If they have that on Thinkorswim, I have no idea. Because I'm just looking at a corn chart from a corn ETF, and it's like just like at lows, and it's in a pretty bad trend. Okay, we have today's Thursday. We got a 10-year TIPS auction coming up. That can bring in some volatility. Then at 10:45 we had Fed Logan. So in like literally 3 minutes we get a TIPS auction. Sometimes they're late to get the data out, so we'll keep an eye on stuff on that. Or we can just look at like ZN. The plan for today's sell-off is honestly just sit on my hands. I prefer to be executing into a little bit nicer conditions, right? This is why I just prepare people for when market conditions change. When we get under these flip lines, and then we get into a falling 5-day moving average. If anything, I'd be looking for bounces in the short term, but I'd just be aware that the trend is potentially changing. Look, big cap stocks got hit, so the one that I've been eyeing in on is Amazon. I feel like we can easily bounce right back up on Amazon. I mean, we've seen these moves, right? And they end up bouncing to the upside, right? Just higher lows. And the risk to reward here is if it takes out this low and or this low, right? And you can structure your trade in that kind of way. You just got to be aware that, you know, it's the 5-day moving average is declining. You can see it try to come for it here and it's still declining. Positive divergence, so to see a potential bounce makes sense. Right back up to what, probably 187, maybe a little bit more. And then Microsoft is another one that I'd probably be eyeing in on here too, right? So yeah, that's how I'd be looking at today. You know, it's either chill out and let things happen, or if you're like looking for like dip buybacks, you can look into these names. Just be aware that the 5-day moving average, it's declining. Okay, so you can take stabs at like big drops, like today would be technically, and yesterday would be considered that big drop. Or you wait for the 5-day moving average to flatten out to start turning up. So price action would have to get, you know, back above it to follow that short-term trend. ZC. Oh, thanks, man. Thanks. ZC is corn. I'm not too sure you're talking about like it breaking above 400. It looks like it's like trying to break below it. Maybe that's what you meant. Corn futures. I'm not much of a fan of this specific chart. It's kind of in this range, but it's definitely in an overall downtrend. Yeah, I don't have a really specific idea on how to approach this one, to be quite honest. Jared, I short on occasion. The position sizing on my shorts are always smaller. So I don't really put too much like emphasis on it. Looks like a corny chart. Corny looks corny. Corn looks corny. All right, so what has happened since we went into this gray convergence with the negative divergence? Well, we are starting to see a little bit of a counter trend move here on SPY. It's down 45 basis points, but you can see we are kind of levitating here. Doesn't mean that we can't come right back in, but you can see we are getting that little bounce. Potentially coming back up. So this was the 30-minute candle close. It was a nice big green candle, and this is technically that morning star reversal. How much more upside? I don't know, maybe watch the gamma flip line up there at 55.80. That Microsoft little thing that we were talking about earlier, we're kind of like right in that area. So price hasn't really moved from the initial level. Did go lower, but it's not doing much. And then Amazon, I think, is the same thing. Yeah, Amazon's up a little bit. But it went down quite a bit there too, so. Let's see, NVIDIA. And then NVIDIA is still making that little push up higher. I think we called this one out pretty well. I think that was a good read on that. Rivian's moving to high a day. Yeah, Rivian's nice little move there in Rivian. Still just kind of consolidating on the daily time frame. So XLU is tech. It's down only 30 basis points on the trading session today. Ash is saying SMCI is wedging. What time frame? Daily? Kind of like this. Or like... It's gonna actually probably be drawn like this. No? There. Actually, that's holding up pretty well. That downtrend. But yeah, it is just it's getting pretty tight here. I got very tight here. This is where I was interested, but on a breakdown, I'm no longer interested. I'd be more wondering if it could come back up and come back to these areas. I'm not going to try to trade it down here. I just prefer to wait and just see it. Like, can you just play it here and then see it bounce up? That's an idea, but if it breaks down, just respect that, because if it expands to the downside, it could fall and it could fall quick. So I would never, if I did do that, it would be a small speculative, like a 1/3 size entry. And if it comes back in and does this, then I try to like add more into on a breakout and buy the strength. Why do I bother with 1 minute? 1 minute you can see volume. So you can see changes in activity very quickly with volume. That's pretty much the only reason. And you can see kind of just subtle shifts in a micro time frame. So if I go into like something like I'll just go Amazon, right? And if you go to the 1 minute chart, you could like look at volume spikes. Take a look, watch. See this big spike right here in volume? That was a capitulatory kind of move, right? That 1 minute time frame, where has price gone since there? We've gone sideways. So this capitulatory action right there, if you notice this, you could have just, like, and that's kind of one of the reasons why we looked at this little area here, right? That type of move could very potentially mark some sort of a bottom or a base building, and you could watch to see how price forms from that point. But the main thing there is I kind of keep an eye on volume, and then also I like the structure too on smaller time frames. That's it. And then I go out to the 15-minute time frame, right? And there's, it's still declining, right? The 5 days declining. Then I'll go to the daily. The daily seeing excessive move to the downside, So I factor it all in. Palantir. Yeah, Palantir's holding up pretty nicely. You have earnings around the corner though, and price action is getting tight. I don't like when it gets tight like this. I prefer it to come more sideways into down. Because when it gets sideways tight, like it's like one down day can like wipe out all of that. But overall, I mean, it doesn't look bad. It's just trending higher. It just hit a new high for the year today. Strong stocks typically get stronger. So, yeah, not bad. Texas Instruments. I mean, same thing goes here. I mean, earnings is around the corner. So once again, another binary event, right? So it's kind of just consolidating at the highs. Yesterday we hit a new high, a little bit of a reversal candle there, but strong stocks typically get stronger. There is a little bit of negative divergence in the RSI, but the trend is up. So it looks good. I would prefer to see more consolidation. I would like to see what happens after earnings. If we get a nice big green bar on earnings, I would wait for the consolidation then from that point. So if we get earnings that looks like this, I like to look for the consolidations and then play the continuation. ADI goes the same story. Earnings is a little bit farther away here, but this is also a strong looking chart. Just consolidating right around these highs. Just building a base. No, I don't have a set schedule for streaming. I typically am on Mondays for sure. And then sometimes throughout the week, I'll try to hop on too. All right, we're just right there back at the weekly expected move. Trading in and around. Yeah, 10-year chips auction just came out a little bit ago. Seeing if anything changes. I mean, not much has changed. We'll pull up the 10-year yield. Let's see if it's responding in any way here. See if ZB moved at all. ZB, ZN. Getting a little bit of move there. TLT saw a little bit of a move to the downside on that. So we'll see if there's any more, substantial price action that comes from it. But right now, if I'm looking at the S&P 500, we're just floating around the weekly expected move, kind of just at its happy place. So nothing really to report there. I want to draw this to be a straighter line, but it don't really matter. Tesla up 3% on the trading session. Still holding up rather well here. Keeps on kind of floating higher too. Yeah, I can try to make a detailed video on the gamma exposure levels. Is the gold to Bitcoin ratio available on TradingView? Dude, I think that there was somebody that made an indicator, but I have never checked it to make sure its validity, if it actually matches with what I look at. But I think somebody did make it. So you can maybe type in like on Google, say order to shift tool TradingView, and maybe somebody built out the indicator for that platform. I just use it on stock charts. Give me a second here. Alrighty. Market net flow still has no convergence there. S&P 500, once again, still bouncing and floating around its weekly expected move. Still in negative gamma territory. We had that morning star reversal 30-minute pattern. I don't really put way too much weight on that. But we did come down to that 55.50 pretty much to the point, to the key there on this specific chart, and we bounced from that level. It's a nice little move there. See if we have some effort to go retest that gamma flip line. Definitely would want to see tech kind of play with that though, like participate. Right now, the advanced decline line is almost 50-50. So flat, we have mixed board clearly on the S&P 500. Heat map, NVIDIA's up on the day. That's definitely helping. Apple's down, Microsoft's down. Microsoft, I would say Apple and Google are the big ones holding things down here. I guess maybe even Amazon. Amazon's definitely one that's down more than these other names. Which tells me that I feel like there's still an opportunity here in Amazon. Yeah. You watch the YouTube chat, yeah. I saw that like green screen video and I was like, that's kind of funny. I got to make a video on that. Do good. Alrighty. I think I'm going to take a quick break and then we'll come back and look at the markets here. Yeah, the flip line here on the S&P 500 is 55.80. I'm going to update really quick here before I take a quick break, probably just like a 5-minute break or so. Yeah, still the main level is 55.50 here. That's the put wall, right? We saw people reaching for 5,500, but they, you know, at the current moment, that wasn't the, like, they weren't holding up, and this turned gray. So that tells us that 55.50 could be kind of that floor that you'd want to keep an eye on. If you get below it, it could get dirty. If we stay above it, we could produce that little bit of a bounce. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing here. We're 20 points above it. We actually came into 55.50 on this specific, the Awanda chart, the CFDs, SPX, to the T, right? If I look at SPX, 55.50 was right here. So it floated in and around it, which is normal. And we held it. So you'd want to hold this, you know, extend to the left. Extend to the right. There we go. Okay. Was I the first person to use the Sailor to Shift ratio? Yeah, I'm the one who made it. I created it. That was my tool. It did not exist prior to me. Well, maybe somebody was looking at that same exact tool, but definitely wasn't out there in the public space. You can have access to it completely for free. I made a video on the Sailor to Shift tool. You can make it yourself for free. You can watch it for free on stockcharts.com. I have a video. I walk through exactly how to make it step by step and how I specifically use it. In the Discord, it's like you have a permalink to it, but yeah, you can use it yourself. I show people how to do it for free. No, I'm not a genius. That's for sure. My IQ is probably shot to crap. I just like to experiment and tinker and find things and cool things in the market, and I ran into that and I was like, whoa, this is crazy. Okay, damn, Eli Lilly's down 6.3% today. Oof, what a hit there on Eli Lilly. I want to take a look at a couple ETFs here. Pink, yeah, down on the day, just slightly there. I mean, we're seeing pullbacks in an uptrend, people. These create opportunities. I think we might need to run our holy grail scan to see if there's any good setups coming up here for pullbacks to move higher. We got to just be considerate of how market conditions are changing currently. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll just keep this on the screen so we can see just how it updates. But I'm gonna take a quick. I'm gonna just put bookmap up. It's kind of nice. Nah, bookmap's gonna take too much from my stream actually. There we go. You got BMY, nice. What's BMY up to? Yeah, this thing was getting just clobbered, man. BMY was getting clobbered. Now earnings is around the corner, so it'd be interesting to see how that plays out. But yeah, nice little bounce there in BMY. It's still in obviously a downtrend, but man, you'd think that these big companies would start to see a little bit of love here in the near future. Dang, it even looks like it's wedging right here. Okay. I'm going to pull up the SPX and have those key levels on here, and I'm just going to put them right here on the chart. Go like this. Go like this. And I'll be back. I'm going to take a quick break. Quick break. Quick break. Quick break. All right. Me back. What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Here we go. How's everyone doing today? How's everybody doing today? Doing today. Hopefully everyone's doing good. Okay. Whew. All right, let's take a quick look at the markets. Probably going to end it here soon. I don't feel the need to still be on. I think the market's doing. I think we called out today's price action fairly well today. We were looking for a bounce outside of these daily expected moves, weekly expected moves. The higher probability was to come back in. We're keeping a close eye here on market net flow, and for when it starts to converge back to gray, it could mark more of a base. We talked about Nvidia, how kind of reminded me of how bear markets typically look, where you have these three waves down. And we saw a nice move from there. Now we came up into the upper minute. We're still below the opening range, and now we're kind of coming off there. But nice little move there, up 2.4% on the day. We've seen some relative moves in Tesla too, as well as we're approaching earnings. A little bit of weakness now. Microsoft, I think the area that we said to trade, it's kind of up in the green there so far, so we'll see if that holds. Same with Amazon. We talked about that same level right over here. And, it's up in the green there. So if you manage to take these trades, they're up slightly, right? Not without like a little bit of volatility, but they're up there slightly overall. Day's not over, that's for sure. I feel like I'm over though. I'm tired. I need some air, some sunlight. The sunlight. Very common, just so you know, like we said earlier, the weekly expected move, it's very common to like trade in and around these levels. If you get below it, you can come back up and come back in. Very common to see that kind of stuff happen. It's when we really start breaking from the levels, brings in a lot of different different moves in the market. And then we're still in negative gamma territory. Okay, so negative gamma territory, buying begets buying, selling begets selling. We get some volatile moves. We've seen that in the morning. And now we're kind of just trying to regulate itself right above that 0-date level of 55.50, which has been kind of the the put wall for the day. See if anything's changed here. Nope, 55.50 is the main level. Yeah, it's kind of uncertain to me what can happen for the rest of the day. Honestly, like looking at market net flow and where we currently are, I can just see a lot of chop. If we do keep on moving up, I'd be watching the upper gamma levels up in this area. Gamma flip line at 55.80 and so forth. I think that's possible. But it's like, do I really want to get caught up in it, right? Do I want to get caught up in some chop, which there's no convergence here. You can get contra moves. We've been getting it, but you can also get chop. So we got Nvidia reporting after the bell. These large mega cap names, right? We've seen some good pullbacks. I think that we can potentially see a bounce in the near future with some of these, right? IWM is coming off a little bit. Just huge implied volatilities in these things. Just the volatility is crazy in these names. You're seeing that really shown through the range of these candles. And then I think we talked about Schwab too. Just being incredibly seeing some incredible volatility there, and the possibility for a little bounce, in and around these areas, but you got to be very tactical. And then Meta did break out of this little flag pattern here, up 2.45% on the day. It's kind of coming back into where there was prior supply, but we broke out, we flagged, and we came back into around the highs of the trading session. JPM's floating around its 5-day moving average, and this is really just coming back from a, pretty strong move there too as well. SPY falling below 552 today. It's possible. It is possible, but I would prefer to see this more in red than anything. to get that type of a move for this to start turning back up and go into red. I mean, the divergence is there. It would be nice to see the convergence. And I mean, really, if I look at the 15-minute time frame, that would just be literally right back into this weekly expected move. But we'd have to re-tag to under this low. Yeah, like I said, it could be right up here. It could be right here. I think we're going to probably still see a pretty decent sized move because if I look at the implied move, we're still at 2.11 for the daily expected move. That's literally from where we currently stand right now. Come on, why isn't it trying? Dude. Oh my goodness, dude. I can't get my mouse, like I can't get the thing to work, to draw. It does it and then doesn't do it. I don't know. Yeah, so basically $2 expected move. What did I just do? So basically that could be right up here. It could also be $2 down here, which would bring us to around the lows of the day if that's actually the case. And then we have Netflix. Yeah, Netflix's earnings are coming up. Can I update the gamma for SPX? Yeah, let's go like this. SPX, gamma, net gamma. All over the place, man. And remember, tomorrow we have an option expiration. Okay, we have an option expiration, so just be mindful of that because a lot of this gamma is going to be rolling off. Right? $55.80. Local resistance 5,600. That was a 0-day level this morning. We went right through it. And it's also a pretty interesting gamma level. So if we can get back above this gamma flip line. Remember, in negative gamma territory, buying begets buying, selling begets selling. This is where you get crazy moves. Right? And then we're still holding that 55.50. We basically touched that to the button on the CFD chart. Okay. Yeah. And then last, we'll just really close in on Netflix because that is reporting after the bell. Netflix as it stands right now. Looking at about a $55 expected move. That's pretty much the same range. I'm not going to update it, but that's like up here to 698. We'll just call it 700 and down here 588. That would be one standard deviation. Okay, 68% of the times it closes within this. And very frequently we tag the expected moves when earnings is announced. Very frequently. And sometimes if the market really likes what it sees or dislikes what it sees, you get multiple deviations. So but those would be the key levels there going into earnings for specifically Netflix. All right. With that, I think I'm going to call it quits. Hope today's session helped out everybody. If it did, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel whether you're on Twitch, follow if you're on Twitter or X, and YouTube you can subscribe and turn notifications on because I do the market briefs. And then also to close off, I do midday market updates sometimes on Patreon. So if you are a free subscriber there or a paid subscriber, they'll be there for the midday updates, which is like a 5 to 7 minute video. And then obviously I have the Discord group there too as well if you want additional stuff. Okay, that's it. See you later. See you guys. See you, man. Later. Saba, Todd. Take care, Colby. Later. See ya, FT. Dijan, AA, 69 Conquer. See you guys. All right. Thanks from YouTube. Thanks, TY.